Hey, this is Jeff at Reverb. I'm here today to show you some licks and concepts that I've taken from the legendary Mr. Stephen Stills. You know, obviously a well-known legend in the music industry. Of course, Buffalo Springfield, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, Stephen Stills, Manassas, countless fantastic solo records. But in my opinion, sometimes it's overlooked when you hear the names of all the greats, especially from the same era as Stephen, that he doesn't always get the recognition as a lead guitar player, and he is actually a fantastic lead guitar player, and he does some really cool unorthodox things that I wanted to show you in this lesson that you might be able to work into your own playing. Stephen played a variety of guitars over the years. There was a time in the 70s where he was playing a Firebird quite a bit, so this is a 65 Firebird 3 that's got some early 70s T-top Gibson pickups in it, humbuckers. And I have a Pro Analog Devices Manticore pedal for the drive through a Magnatone amp. And I'm using a Pro Analog Devices Super Quack wah. I brought a wah today because Stephen used a wah a lot. Got a lot of different tones out of a wah-wah pedal. And this one's voiced kind of like the older ones, like the old Voxes and that, so I can really kind of get that Stills sound. There's a song called Go Back Home, and it was on one of his solo records, and it's kind of a riff in D. It's just kind of a blues riff, but there's a lick that he does. I hear him do it in that song and some others, and it's based in D minor pentatonic, and it's got a real nice sharp attack to it. And I noticed, and you don't have to do this at home unless it's comfortable for you, but I remember hearing an interview where he said he always thought his ring finger was kind of on the weak side. So where a lot of players would use their ring finger, he would actually use his middle, but that would be up to you as a player. I'm inside the D minor pentatonic scale. And it's all about his attack and his feel that gives this lick such a sharp edge to it. But I'm hammering from 13 to 15. So I'm doing the hammer and then playing 4 notes on the 15th. And then I'm doing a hammer from 13 to 15 on the high E string, and then doing a real slight, probably like a 4th bend, maybe not quite a half bend, back to the 13th. You could catch him doing that with the wah quite a bit. Of course, wah being optional. And then you could always tail that off, you know, with a variety of things back into the pentatonic. When I was going back and listening to some old live footage of Stephen Stills, both in Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Manassas, like that 70s era, I caught him doing this really cool lick, somewhat based on pentatonic, minor and major, I suppose, depending how you look at it. But the concept is, so, you know, whereas a lot of players, if you're playing an A, you got your A minor, your blues scale and your pentatonic positions. A lot of players would do, you know, stuff in this area like. But Stephen's actually throwing in a G sharp. Say, like, I've heard him do this in Almost Cut My Hair by Crosby, Stills, and Nash, which is an A minor. So he's doing. But I'm right here at the 10th fret, going to the 9th fret, back to the 10th on the B string. Doing it twice and ending back on the 10th. Going to the 8th fret on the E string, back to the 10th on the B. And of course, Steve had a pretty strong has a pretty strong vibrato. and with the wah, it gives it that edge too. And then he had a tendency to follow it up kind of with a chromatic concept. So I'm just going chromatically down in half steps. 10, 9, 8 on B, 9, 8, 7 on G, and landing here in the pentatonic area. So these are licks that you could totally use in your own playing if you're improvising your own solo. They're kind of think outside the box type of licks. Okay, another really cool thing I got from Stephen Stills, which again, it could be in any number of songs. I think I got this as well from Almost Cut My Hair, like a live version, maybe from around 74 or 75. But I heard him doing. You know, this is typical of a lot of classic rock players. They do a lick like this, but Stephen's got his own approach and his own style. It kind of makes it all his own. But I'm doing, a bend that you would do right in the pentatonic box, grabbing the 8th fret with my pinky here. And again, Stephen might use his middle rather than your ring, so that's up to you, to bend the 7th fret of the G string. Still striking both strings at the same time. And then on the way down, I'm hitting fourths. So 7 to 5, grabbing both the 7th fret on the G string and 5th fret on the D string, and then moving it to D and A string. And then landing on a 5th chord, making a D5 at the end. So if you're in a situation where you're playing a song in A minor and you know that the song's getting ready to change to the 4 chord, which would be a D, that's a great concept where you can transition to that 4. Another cool lick. This is actually off the Manassas record. I can't remember which song I lifted this from, but you should listen to the whole record anyway, because it's a great record. There's this killer lick that he does. Sounds great with the wah or without, but and all I'm doing here is just jumping through different parts of the pentatonic scale in A minor. So it's the note selection, the concept is simple, but it's Stephen's feel that might make it, a little tricky at first. But I'm going 8-10 on the B string. Then I'm going 5-7 on G. Then I'm going 5-7 on D. And then 3-5 on the E string. All right, well, there's some concepts that I have taken from Stephen Stills. Again, I personally think, obviously not an underrated musician. Sometimes his guitar playing, in my opinion, his lead guitar playing is overlooked. So I think you can learn something by studying Stephen's music. Again, Crosby, Stills, Nash, Manassas, all those records. Really great guitar stuff on there. So thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you the next time on Reverb. Wow.